Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Coliseum Chronicles Live on the Voice of College Football USC. I am Terrence Holton, joined by Casey Kasliner, and we're going to come in with some pretty disappointing news, to say the least. Casey, I think you can agree with me. But USC projected to be, and I would say starting guard DJ Wingfield may not be eligible for this year. I share my screen here real quickly. But Casey, this would be a pretty huge hit to USC's, I don't want to say comeback season, but a pretty important season.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, especially considering, how Jane Mayava plays as we take a look here. And, he thought he could play, got obviously transferred a long time ago. I believe he transferred like back in December, maybe
Yeah,
January.
he was one of the early ones.
Yeah, and it looks like I think he's hiring an attorney and stuff, but yeah, it's an unfortunate position to be in if you're Wingfield because he was staying in the Big Ten, and we know he's a very good and experienced and seasoned offensive lineman, not a guy like maybe as good as like Jonah Monheim per se, but a guy who's very, very solid. And again, we were looking at the depth chart, and he's projected to play in at the left guard position. And I mean, it's not like USC doesn't have depth at the offensive line, but they don't have a ton of depth. I mean, you have Alex Payne, true freshman, could step in, but obviously you want a more physical guy. And there's other guys who could step in as well, I'm sure we'll talk about, but you want a more physical, seasoned guy. When you have a quarterback like Jane Mayava, who's, such a like kind of sporadic type of player who's running around and, unpredictable. So it's very disappointing for sure.
Yeah, so I don't really know how you don't have this figured out until now is the thing. We're getting to July. We're a month away from college football. How is it that they are just now learning that he's not eligible for the year? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, the NCAA like it has had a lot of issues with this. I feel like over the years with similar things, but I mean, do you think like Wingfield like wasn't on top of it, or do you think it's an NCAA issue?
That's a great question. It feels like Wingfield may have not been on top of it. Like, I don't want to blame the player, but as it says, the previous belief, I can blame USC too, but as it says right here, the previous belief was that Wingfield had a season of eligibility. How do you not know is the thing?
Yeah,
Like,
because
what do you mean belief? How is that not like a definitive thing that his eligibility? How do you not go get a guy knowing you're gonna get this waiver or he's going to have eligibility?
because he was a JUCO guy.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I mean, look, I've listened to the interviews and whatnot, and Lincoln Riley, I mean, obviously he's going to say his own players are good, but he has talked very highly in practice about DJ Wingfield. He's a guy who has like 1,200 snaps, and again, playing at Purdue, not a good team, but still in the Big Ten Conference, a team, conference that's very physical for multiple years. And again, I mean, you look at who USC is losing: Pregnon, Mason Murphy. Not that Mason Murphy was good, but still.
Gotta say, that's a net negative right there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying depth wise though.
Yeah.
And then of course Jonah Monheim to the draft. So you're losing a lot of guys, and I mean it's hard to kind of like measure, on a stat how good an offensive lineman is until you watch them.
Yeah.
But I looked at his PFF grades. I mean, pretty good overall. Not bad pass blocking grades. And so, yeah, again, this is a guy like you want to have on your roster. John Ray Reed, too, like two very important parts of your team and your offense rely on those two guys because they're seasoned and they're playing in the middle of the offensive line. And so this is very disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, so let's talk a little bit about I guess possible fill-ins. Who is going to take his place if hypothetically he can't get that waiver? Because there is always a possibility that he does and he plays another year. Because as you mentioned, he's a JUCO guy, and all those guys have a lot more eligibility now. We know Waymon Jordan has 4 years of eligibility because of it. Who do you see slotting into that guard position? I think we're thinking he plays on the left. I have some ideas outside of what we think, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think one thing you could do is move Elijah Page to the left guard because we know he has a lot of size. He wasn't the best offensive lineman last year, but I think he probably improved.
He
He was
definitely
young.
improved, yeah.
you could move him to guard and then put a guy like Alex Payne at left tackle, Micah Benuelos as well.
Mm.
Your backup center is Killian O'Connor. So you could also, put him in the middle, move Gianre Reed. I don't know if Reed would want to do that though.
So
Reed,
sorry,
yeah,
that's kind of what I was thinking. O'Connor, he obviously started that Texas A&M game, if I'm not mistaken. Also, just put on scholarship this past spring. I could see him slotting into that probably center position. You maybe move Reed to the left if Reed is willing to go along with it. Obviously, he's the more experienced player. He is who they want snapping the ball. But I think as far as maybe experience within the system wise, I think that might be the best scenario, because
yeah,
I don't know if Elijah Page would work inside, he's more of a tackle.
yeah. I know. I tend to agree. I just think he has a lot of size and like his raw build is really good. It's just the problem is he has the cramping issue and he just sometimes doesn't block, as we saw last year. But
Sometimes
I think
doesn't block.
honestly though, like if I was John Ray Reed though, I would be pretty upset if I was told, "Hey,
Yeah.
another guy didn't figure out his eligibility. You were the starting center for the entire season in front of Kyle McCord at Syracuse, and now you're gonna be demoted. Like again, I know you're still starting on the offensive
Not a
line,
demotion.
but the center is the hardest and the most important offensive line position.
Yeah.
It's you're doing two things at once, right?
Yeah,
So
but
it's
it doesn't mean it's a demotion. It just means it's filling the holes that you
I know,
need on the
but
team.
like how college again, like if this was NFL, like I'm sure he'd be fine, but this is college football where like everyone's ego is tainted when they don't get what they want. Let's be real, that's why the transfer portal exists, because
Yeah.
egos are tainted when stuff happens. Look at Bear Alexander, dare I say that name in here again. So I think if he's a mature guy who's like, I'm just trying to get to the NFL, like he'll be fine with it. But if that scenario happens, I wouldn't expect, John Ray Reed to be all hunky dory, like, oh, this is great.
Hunky dory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about that. At the same time, I guess this is also kind of a counterpoint for you. I think just because he's such an experienced player, a guy who wants to do what's right for the team, I could see him, moving to left guard. Um, I just think that it may be what he has to do just for the team's aspect. He's going to be probably the best offensive lineman that we have. I'll throw Elijah Page. He was obviously, as you mentioned, he was pretty good down the stretch. Tobias Raymond also had a great Las Vegas Bowl. I just think that Reed, because he's going to be such an important part, he's going to maybe have to give up a position to what the next best player, I guess, because I don't think you want to start a true freshman like Alex Payne on the right, on like the tackle position, and move Page over into the guard. I think you'd want to have as much experience as possible there. So I think that's why you maybe put Killian O'Connor at center and move Reed over to the guard.
Yeah, I agree there. And I want to ask you another question because like we didn't really have this show yet when the transfer portal was kind of in the height of it. Are
Mhm.
you like now in hindsight, like we didn't know this Wingfield stuff was going to happen, but still, I sort of thought, they didn't really shop much in the transfer portal, like outside of those two guys for O line. I know those two guys are big,
Mhm.
but are you disappointed now? Like hindsight's 2020, but looking back on it retrospectively, are you sort of like upset at Lincoln Riley? Like, man, you should have you don't have your depth at the offensive line is pretty thin. It's
Yeah.
there, but it's thin. Like, what's your assessment on that?
No, I actually do agree. I was a little I don't want to say shocked, but I was definitely surprised that they didn't go get more offensive linemen in the portal, especially because part of it was Miller Moss, but he got blitzed when he was behind center, and also part of it was like guys like Mason Murphy and Elijah Page on that learning curve. But I was a little surprised they didn't go get some bigger names in the transfer portal. I don't know them off the top of my head, but some more, power four offensive linemen. I was a little surprised by that, especially because now we're in a situation where the depth has a lot of inexperience behind it. It's mostly sophomores and freshmen who haven't really seen the field all that much. So yeah, I guess so. Obviously, as you mentioned, like in hindsight, yeah, of course I'd want them to add more offensive linemen, but looking back, I wanted it. What about you?
No, I did too at the time. I mean, you look at what happened last year. It's not like their offensive line was just, middle of the pack. Like this offensive line was allowing what, 5 sacks against Michigan, 6 sacks? Dare I say? I don't remember off the
Yeah,
top of my
what
head.
was it? Yeah, it was way too many.
I mean, you're going into Michigan against Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, and you're expecting Miller Moss, who has no wheels, to like win that game. It's ridiculous. I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that they made it as close as they did was impressive. I think they have to realize they're not.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off for a second. I'm not going to agree with that because Michigan could not throw the ball downfield.
Okay,
So
you're right. They had a
but
really good backfield.
yeah.
But,
uh, but go on.
yeah, I mean, I'll rephrase it. USC playing at Michigan, like it's a tough place to win. So I was surprised that they made it as close on the road, we'll say, just knowing how bad USC was on the road. Forget the team. I mean, I just think you're in such a physical, like defensive line heavy conference. You're playing Oregon this year. You're playing Notre Dame, obviously. There's
Michigan
teams, Michigan again. Like there's teams in this conference, even like some of the bad teams, like Michigan State, like their defensive line's not horrible, So I think
Illinois got a pretty decent one. Iowa always a defensive team.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I think Mayava has a really good 2025 quarterback skill set of you have to be able to extend the play. Like we saw Caleb do that. Yeah. Miller Moss clearly didn't have the ability to do that, and that's why he's in the ACC now. But man, it feels lazy. Again, I understand spending a lot of money on, certain portal guys, but it felt like USC doesn't really have, at least on the offensive side of the ball, a portal guy that is going to make a difference. Strawn is the best one, really. And even he's the wide receiver.
No, what about the running backs? What about Jordan and Sanders?
Okay, you're right. But I mean, okay, yeah, running backs, but that was a necessary fill. They had zero running backs, really. I mean, they had Brian Jackson, but at positions where they need depth, we'll say, outside of the halfback, I mean, receiver, you don't really need much, but offensive line, would have been nice to get a tight end, I think, too. I mean, Lake McCree gets hurt a lot. Walker Lyons isn't that good, if we're being honest here. At least at catching the ball. So, I mean, yeah, sorry, that's my rant on the transfer portal.
No, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, it's disappointing. Like we said, it's looking back. Of course, we can make all these criticisms now what we know. I just still think that if you look at Lincoln Riley's tenure, he's not always getting the positions you most need, especially going into the Big Ten. The Big Ten is a conference where you build from the trenches, where you build from the defensive line, the offensive line. And I think they did a great job with the defensive line. I think the D-line is going to be fantastic. As I've said a ton of times on this show, I think it's probably going to be the best unit in the entire, not the entire country, on the entire team. But the offensive line is definitely a little questionable.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I mean, we've talked about the D-line, and there's depth there. The fact that Braylon Shelby might not be starting is a good sign for the D-line. But, I mean, yeah, the offensive side of the ball, it's just so weird to me that 2 years ago, the USC offense was one of the best in the country. Obviously, you have a Heisman quarterback, so that's going to help you a lot. But, 1 year, 2 years removed from that, it's almost flipped. It's the offense is so unpredictable. And I know college football, everything changes and you can't take anything in a vacuum, really. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it's weird that, an offensive guru like Lincoln Riley last year, only put up, 13 points against UCLA? It's just, it's weird.
16, thank you very much.
16, my bad.
Kicking field goals on the UCLA 5, 3 straight drive made me want to pull my hair out, dude.
Shout out to Michael Lance for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I just think it's such a disappointing. I don't know. We'll see what happens with Wingfield. Maybe everything we say here will be irrelevant. Maybe he'll get that waiver. I just go back to the point of how did Wingfield not know he wasn't eligible? This feels like, once again, and maybe it's an NCAA problem. Maybe they didn't notify him till now. But how is it in mid-July that we're getting notified that this guy, one of our probably starting offensive linemen, isn't going to be able to play?
It's just, yeah, I mean, back to what you're saying. I mean, it's such a slippery slope. Like, we don't really know what happens behind the scenes, but I mean, we are literally a month and a half away from kickoff. Like, it is coming. Missouri State, they're coming August 30th, I think.
Wow.
And I mean, like this isn't time to like shake up your roster. Obviously it's one guy, but this is the worst time for it to happen. Like, I wish it happened, if it had to happen, like, months ago, because you'd have time to figure it out. You have practices, but this is just, a situation where it's going to be a lot of question marks. And look, last year on the offensive line, USC had a lot of injuries, right? And if that repeats itself, they could be in for a lot of trouble. Just losing this one guy. You don't have that many guys on your team. So, or at least on your offensive line. I mean, the depth wise. So yeah, I think that's tough.
Yeah. Okay. So I completely agree. Should we, let's move into our other topic, because this kind of goes into what we talked about a little bit pre-show of just USC not knowing things and stuff like that. But Casey, how much on the hot seat do you think Lincoln Riley is? Because you sent me this article from On3, which has Paul Feinbaum. One second, there's an ad on it. I got to close out of it.
You're good.
Paul Feinbaum says that Lincoln Riley, as a coach, is one of the most under pressure in the country. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, at least in the Big Ten, I'm trying to think big picture. Like, obviously, Billy Napier, like someone like that, is probably the most on the hot seat. Kalen DeBoer, I'd say even after year one, is on the hot seat.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Like Deshaun Moore. Wait, sorry.
Deshaun Moore. Who are you talking about?
The Michigan coach.
Sharon Moore.
Sharon Moore. I'm sorry, it's early. Sharon Moore. Like, those are guys I think right away. For some reason, I didn't really think off the top of my head right at the beginning Lincoln Riley was. And I just think that's because me and you know that what USC is, the position USC is right now. They're in a huge deficit money-wise, the school, I mean. And also, I mean, his recruiting prowess. It's kind of like the whole, like, Andy Enfield paradox. It's like, do you get
Andy Enfield paradox? I love that.
Like, we saw what Andy Enfield's firing happened to this program. And look, they're on their way up, but basketball-wise, for those of you that don't watch USC basketball, Andy Enfield, he brought in Isaiah Collier, Bronny, Boogie Ellis out of the transfer portal. He brought in a lot of big guys, and this team was, of course, a powerhouse. They made it to the Elite Eight, and then he had a bad year, and then everything went south. So I could see that happening if, like, Lincoln Riley did get fired, and obviously I don't think it's ever going to happen, because unless the school is so desperate to bring their football team back to relevance, and they finish so poorly, because they're in a lot of debt right now. I mean, Lincoln Riley's getting paid what, $10 million a year.
Yeah, his buyout's like $80 million or something like that. Chris, this is 100% correct. I don't like Feinbaum that much. I'll just say that. Because he is so SEC biased. It's crazy. And like last year, especially, he just kept denying that the Big Ten was a better conference than the SEC, even though it just 100% was, and it will be this year again. He is ridiculous, and he'll never admit that he's wrong, which at a certain level I respect. At the same time, I just can't stand him because of it.
Yeah, no, look, SEC bias, he's living proof of it. We'll put it that way.
At the same time, I will say that I think very much so Riley is up there with some of the most pressure at USC, because this is not a program, other than, I guess, the last 10 years, that loses a lot. This is not a program that is known for losing. Lincoln Riley in back-to-back seasons has way underachieved. 7-5, 6-6. You can say what you want about like the teams and all that stuff that he's had. Last year's team should have been better. And I do think that there's a certain level of, I saw this, I forget what person said this, but you have to lose by a little before you win by a little, before you win by a lot. That last year was you lose by a little. This year's win by a little. Next year's win by a lot. That's
Yeah,
kind of the way I've been looking at it. At least that's my positive brain looking at it. The negative part of my brain says that I don't trust Lincoln Riley as a play caller anymore. And I've told you that.
I mean,
Because,
it's hard to argue with that. Yeah, it's
yeah.
hard to argue with bubble screen on 3rd and 10 to Lake McCree.
Dude, oh my God. The third and long, the third and medium calls was bubble screen or slants, nothing in between, or like draw up the middle. Oh my God. It was infuriating. And like
Yeah,
it was so hard to watch. Yeah, but I do think that Lincoln Riley, his play calling, it's fallen off a cliff. And when he doesn't have that Heisman quarterback, can you really trust the guy to get you all these points? I mean, look at his quarterbacks: Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. And then the times where it's not really a Heisman guy, you look at Spencer Rattler, you look at Jaden Maiyava, you look at Miller Moss. And I'm not going to disrespect Maiyava. We've only seen like 4 games of him. But Miller Moss, I'll say his name. I mean, his teams just aren't as good.
yeah. No, 100%. And the hard thing to think about is like when he first came here, he brought, all of his Oklahoma guys. And now it's mostly, changed at this point.
Yeah.
So the hard thing to sort of grasp is like Lincoln Riley's on the hot seat, but a guy like Danton Lynn or Coach Henderson, like they're not really on the hot seat.
They're on the rise. That's the thing. They've done a great job at USC. They like Lynn. Lynn will either, because he obviously got extended, he'll either stick around for another year or two, maybe see this out if USC is good this year, or he'll get some great head coaching job at another Power 5 school. That's what I think.
100%. And I mean, Eric Henderson's one of the best recruiters in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, they just had a lot of coaches that, you look at the On3 247 rankings are so good. So it's weird to kind of grasp that. And yeah, but it looks like we have some comments here.
Yeah. I was just about to. Yeah, Chris, completely agree with you. What we were talking about kind of earlier in the show is the problem with Wingfield maybe not being able to play is I think they kind of fall back into the same situation as last year, where the offensive line isn't as good. It is a lot harder to run plays for Maiyava to get him out in space where he can really hurt you, because you may have to start, I'm not going to say a true freshman, but guys who have seen the field a whole lot less than a guy like Wingfield.
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, like, you bring up a good point of like, you have to put Maiyava in a good position. Like Miller Moss is such a system quarterback. Like you could put him, if you give him a good O-line, like he'll probably, if Louisville's O-line this year is good, he'll be fine. He'll probably actually be a good quarterback. Yeah. Maiyava's a more interesting case. So you have to give him, the opportunity to, thrive, we'll say. So it's interesting.
Yeah. I know, and I'm just looking at all of Chris's, going through Chris's. Sorry, we missed these when we were live. I think I agree with that. You need to get, we'll see how much they can actually help out in the blocking game. Obviously, Woody Marks was a fantastic pass blocker last year. We'll see about Wayman Jordan, Eli Sanders, Brian Jackson. I'm not too familiar with their pass blocking game. But I think if the offensive line isn't as good, then it'll be a lot harder for them to be more creative, which could fall into the same thing as last year,
Yeah, I mean, Lake McCree's not a bad blocker either. Just has to stay.
Fine. He's fine.
He's okay. I mean, it'll be interesting. What up, Angry Trojan? Welcome back. Yeah, I mean, this is a good point too, because Miller Moss is such a.
There is nothing surprising you're going to get from Miller Moss. And this is no disrespect. He is a pocket passing quarterback. What you see is what you're getting. You're not going to see anything particularly special from him. And there's some places where that works completely fine. It just wasn't going to work with Lincoln Riley. That's all it is.
He's just going to have a low ceiling, like when he goes to the NFL, because he's going to go. But, it's just not the quarterback that coaches want.
I mean, Jeff Brom got Tyler Shuck to a second-round pick. I mean, if he can do that for him, then he can do that for Miller Moss, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're not totally wrong there.
Tyler Shuck, like I see the traits, but no. But anyways, back to Lincoln Riley. All of those are great points because I do think that part of it has been he's been hindered by the offensive line. That one in 2022 was a pretty good offensive line, but also, Caleb Williams could make any play possible if the offensive line, let someone past them. So I think
Yeah,
that's part of it.
and even still with a good offensive line, he still got injured. Like you can't
Yeah.
necessarily predict these things. And again, the defense was obviously bad, but yeah, I mean, I think we're both in agreement that Lincoln Riley should be under pressure, like under some pressure. But I think the issue is he's not going to really feel that pressure because it doesn't feel like USC, like as a university, is really putting him much under pressure. Like they're embracing him a lot. They're paying him a lot of money. There's really no indication. Like he has a lot of leverage, I feel like, in this conversation.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you just look at our 2026 recruiting class. I mean, that right there is enough leverage to keep him around for another year. Like, in my opinion, no matter, unless he goes under 500, in my opinion, no matter what, that means he's going to stick around.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's not just that, but like Lincoln Riley's like a pretty, like media friendly, not maybe to like the written media, but I'm saying like you see his face everywhere kind of guy. And it feels like USC sort of like, I won't say like shoves him down people's throats, but they sort of like, he's sort of like the face of the program and he's the coach. So I get that. But I feel like he's sort of like, like when they brought him in and like, I wasn't even at the school yet, but I obviously knew what was happening. It felt like, they were sort of trying to change the identity, like you said, back to their winning ways after Clay Helton and prior coaches that couldn't get them winning. But it just felt like, like they're forcing that sort of narrative still, even though they've had, one season truly one good season, we'll say.
One good season. We do not count the 8-5 year as a good season.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, it just feels like, I mean, the point I'm trying to make simply is he's probably under pressure, like from a fan and like written media and like, Paul Feinbaum perspective, but like
we're the real
analysts here. But I don't think that like he's like under any sort of like, hot seat really, realistically speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this kind of just echoes what you just kind of said, Casey. As you just mentioned, we're getting there. NIL, obviously, Chad Bowden. We have the new facility coming in a couple months, which it's making great progress. Walk past it all the time. I do agree that USC will give him time because you think about it, the first team that he brought in, it was kind of a phenomenon because when he inherited the Oklahoma job from Bob Stoops, it was already a great team. He inherited a 3-win team at USC. So he had to build from scratch. And I don't think he did that the first 2 years. He didn't really try to build the program up. He just kind of did a let's win really quickly thing, not a long-term thing. And that worked for the first season, Obviously, they were 1 win away from the college football playoff. But it didn't work long-term. So now the last 2 seasons, I think he's actually been trying to build up the program, make it a long-term thing, which he can stick around for. So I do agree with this. Yes. But sorry.
And jump in here. I mean, like it felt like before the 2023 season, like, oh, the recruiting is great. And then it all kind of blew up in his face. Like guys like Dorian Singer didn't pan out. Obviously, guys like Zachariah Branch he had a good freshman year, but that class was ultimately not very good with Deuce Robinson, like obviously Malachi Nelson. It was not a good.
I mean, the 3 5-stars left.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not saying that they were that good. I mean, don't get me wrong. Malachi Nelson, Zach Branch, and Deuce Robinson. I'm not saying that, but they did leave.
And then the transfers brought up Dorian Singer, but also like Bear Alexander. Like he was just recruiting the wrong way. It feels like he's been coaching for a long time now. How long is it going to take him to like do things the right way at USC? Because like obviously Oklahoma and USC are just so different. And you can't like apply, what you're doing in Oklahoma, which he was doing. For the record, he was doing. There's no secret. And so it's little like shocking that it took him 3 years to realize that. Like it's weird to me. It's weird that it would take you that long. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, no, like we've talked about, until very recently, he was still recruiting like he is in the South. He was trying to get guys from Georgia, Florida, Alabama, when guys in Southern California, which is what they've done now, actually want to come here. They really want to come here. One of the biggest takeaways I ever had from a class, Jeff Fellenzer, professor here at USC, he had, who was it? Oh my gosh, I'm now forgetting the guest. But it was someone who worked a lot with Pete Carroll and recruiting and stuff like that. And it used to be when Pete Carroll was head coach, if you are from Southern California and Pete Carroll's team, USC, offered you, you committed on the spot. That's just how it was. That's exactly how it was. That's not how it is now. And obviously, there's a lot more factors, NIL, all sorts of stuff. We're a lot closer to that, though. What is it? 17 guys from Southern California in this 30-person class, is it? 31?
Yeah, I think 30 or 31.
So much better than what it was. That's so much better than trying to go get guys from the deep south to come to USC. It's such a better look at Xavier Griffin or Elijah Griffin. Which one? Xavier? Elijah?
I think it's Xavier. Right?
Xavier. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we could probably talk all day about this. I do want to say though, like, the fact that it took this long is the annoying part. Like, you let Oregon, like, one of your, I wouldn't say your big, like, I mean, they're a rival. I'll put it that way.
Biggest recruiting rival in the Pac-12.
A recruiting rival, a team that's, rivaled you on the field pretty well too. Go out and take handpick play. Alabama too. Like, they're not a rival, obviously, but like, they have modern day guys starting for them. It's ridiculous that this didn't happen earlier. I don't get, also logistically too, like Lincoln Riley said, I'm just going to go fly to Georgia for a visit when he has some of the best football high school programs in the country in his backyard. Why did it take this long? I know he realized it now, but even like transfers too, like, it feels like, he was trying to apply something to another. And I mean, you make a good point. Like the prowess of USC in the Pete Carroll era, and Pete Carroll, for the record, was not like a Lincoln Riley. He was, when he came in, he was not an experienced coach. He was not respected right away, and he had to earn that respect by winning. And he did. And then he got to the NFL and won a Super Bowl. It feels like Lincoln Riley's the opposite. He earned his respect early by developing a lot of good guys at Oklahoma, good quarterbacks. I mean, a lot of first-round picks. And now it's sort of like it's fading. And 2025 and 2026 are make or break years for Lincoln Riley and USC. If they don't take advantage, if they don't make the college football playoff either or either this year or next year, they are in some serious trouble. Serious trouble. Seriously.
Yeah. And Russ brings up a good point here. Yeah. What we've seen a lot. Casey and I early on in the show, we both said that USC will probably go like 9-3 or something like that. And people jumped down our throats. Like at best, we said like 9-3, 10-2, And I completely agree with this. I think Mailava, I think he has the potential to, maybe go that far, to go to the NFL. We've talked about he's budget Caleb Williams. That's just what he is. But he has the tools to do it. And obviously the O-line isn't that great, but the receivers are so good this year. And the running backs are good as well. I feel like there's enough weapons for him to be good and for USC to, at best, maybe sneak into the playoff. I don't really see it happening, but I could see them going 10-2.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the Big Ten competition before and how unpredictable it could be. Like teams like Michigan have a freshman quarterback. Like there's a lot of teams like Julian Sayin over at Ohio State like that are supposed to finish toward the top that we just don't know if things are going to go right. And I don't honestly argue USC is one of those teams, not necessarily a top 3 finisher maybe, but a team that could finish in the top 5 and has an unpredictable ceiling. I think the floor is kind of clear. But yeah, I mean, I agree with most of these comments coming in now. I mean,
yeah,
Lincoln Riley, had an interesting predicament when he came in. Obviously, he had some really good transfers come in. It just felt like going into year 2, he didn't really take advantage of what was there, right? Like Brendan Rice, Dye coming in, like those are real Travis Dye. Those are great guys to bring in year 1. But after such a great season, you have to like keep building on that, especially when you have, in the age of NIL, a Heisman quarterback staying for another year, Yeah,
no, 100%. And I'll just go to Russ's comment again, too. This is also correct. Like I keep saying, he's budget Caleb Williams because he makes those bad decisions. He would make poor decisions that Caleb would not. That's why Jaden did. But what you see on the field is enticing to say the least.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, like his ceiling is the question mark. His floor feels very clear. Like he's a guy who's going to get you, like squeak out some of these wins. And that's one thing he did that Miller Moss couldn't do. The Nebraska game, the UCLA game. So a lot of respect there across the board.
Mhm.
Some more comments trickling in.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll had experience, but he didn't have experience on the highest,
Yeah.
stage. Like he
Well,
wasn't. He was in the NFL, but I'm
yeah.
saying he wasn't under a microscope, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, look, it's also different. He was pretty good with the Patriots before he came to USC. Obviously, they won the AFC East, I think, the year before he came. They lost in the playoffs. He also was fired from the Jets. He wasn't this really well-respected coach in college football, though. Lincoln Riley had been to the playoff multiple times. He had 2 Heisman-winning quarterbacks. He was a pretty well-respected coach in college football when he came to USC. Pete Carroll, when he came to USC, was not a college coach. He was an NFL coach. That's a pretty big difference. Now it's a little less because of NIL, but back then it was very different in how you get players to come. It's super different. It's a lot harder to be a college coach, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, in a lot of ways, yeah. And I mean, now we have to sort of determine what, Chad Bowden is going to do in terms of like on the field stuff, because obviously Lincoln Riley is going to say, like he said in interviews, he's going to save a lot of time with Chad existing. How does that translate to winning and losing though? Right. Like how is that going to actually, mean anything? And Cam brings it up here. Obviously Chad recruits really well, but how is that going to translate to like Lincoln Riley? Like there's probably a lot of things that go into Lincoln Riley's day or like his schedule that are now fixed by Chad Bowden coming in. We'll see how that translates to like game day and practice allocation of time sort of thing. So,
yeah, this is a hot take right here. Houston Longstreet starting the second half of the season. Where do we see that happening? Because the second half of the season, like, where could you see?
Yeah, I was going to say like,
Yeah,
the season gets really hard second half. Right?
yeah.
I believe Oregon and Notre Dame are both in the second half.
Yeah, so the way that without looking at the schedule, the way that it goes, because it starts off pretty easy, and then you go at Illinois, Michigan, at Notre Dame, at Nebraska. Is that right? Or is maybe it's versus Iowa at Nebraska?
Something like that.
It's an order like that.
Michigan
And then like
State.
Northwestern, Oregon, and UCLA.
Michigan State too.
They're in the front half.
Oh, front half. Okay, my bad.
They're before Illinois.
Yeah. Well, the point is the second half of the season, and also like USC is like these past few years has not played good in the second half, right? Like we've seen obviously with Caleb 2 years ago, they lost like their last 5 games.
Because remember it was also like remember it was they started off like 6-0 because they played such a cupcake schedule, and then it went like Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Oregon, and then UCLA.
Yeah.
And like I think Cal was in there too. And it was like 50. Yeah, it was a Cal game where it was 50-49. They lost. They won because of Jalen Smith. It's like a 2-point conversion, like tip away or something like that.
Yep, I was there. That was very fun. Yeah, I mean, look, I think Hassan Longstreet is going to be playing, pretty healthy amount of snaps those first 4 games or so. Just because they're playing such bad teams. We say bad, but they could surprise USC. No, they're not going to. But I mean, I think that's where we're really going to see him, under pressure. We saw Malachi Nelson in 2023 not play good when he was given that chance. When USC was up by 30 points on Stanford or whatever, or on Nevada or on San Jose State. So it's a big test, especially with no spring game. Like this is really the first time we're seeing him. So he's definitely going to play those first few games, but just not much. Probably.
And then you also have to start to think about like, I don't know, does it cost like his red shirt and stuff like that? Because you can play 3 games before you have to red shirt. So it'll be questionable whether he wants to preserve that red shirt so he can actually play a full season, or if he wants to just step into that starting role, depending on if they have him go.
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, this is all based on gut feeling here.
That's what July is for. July and June of college football season is only used for gut feeling of what you think is going to happen. You don't need facts for a gut feeling.
Yeah. On another note, College Football 26 came out. We did a
Oh, great
ratings.
game. Have you played it?
I have not played it. I'll be
Oh,
honest.
USC is fun, dude. USC is like Wayman Jordan, Eli Sanders, and Jade Mayav are really fun.
Really? How's like
Houston
the
Longstreet's not in the game. I don't
what's that?
think. I don't think Houston Longstreet's in the game.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. How's the receiving core to play with?
I mean, Lemon and Lane are super fun. They
There
get
you
like
go.
Lane catches everything. I first game hopped on, beat UCLA by 40. It was fun. Yeah, very fun game. It's USC is a fun team because Mayav is super quick too, so it's fun. I like running like read option and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and like various shovel pass plays. So love those.
Yeah, no, super fun, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the newest console, so I can't get it. But my roommates at USC do have it, so I will be playing
Nice.
once I get back to school. We'll have to run a game, Terrence. Me and you head to head.
Yes, we should. Yes.
Yeah, no, this is a great point too. I mean, like the first time we ever did a show here, we we talked about the road and the weather, and people a lot. You'd be surprised. Some of you guys in here
How angry people got at us about talking about things like the weather when it's like it is a factor, and how USC has struggled on the road.
Yeah, I mean, look, they won. We're gonna say 0 road games last year. UCLA does not.
UCLA does not count. UCLA does not count. They couldn't win at Maryland.
That's a compliment to USC fans because there were more USC fans than UCLA fans.
Exactly.
And it's the Rose Bowl is literally closer to USC than UCLA. But that's besides the point. And then you go the year before that, and I mean, yeah, they won at Cal. Off the top of my head, at Arizona State, Colorado, like they had some in there, but like again, it's the Pac-12.
They were all close losses to teams who did not win over 4 games, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I think Cal might have won over 4.
Cal may have, but Arizona State and Colorado definitely did not.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I mean, the road is such an issue, and like it's so hard to figure out why. Because I mean, like the cold is tough, right? But there's some places they were playing that weren't that cold, like, and they still looked flustered. So maybe it's not necessarily the weather, but also like just the fatigue. I don't know. It's a
I mean, we can always factor in travel for the Big Ten. That's always a good one.
Travel. I mean, it's certainly one of those things that they have to tighten up this year with marquee road games like Oregon, Notre Dame. So Illinois too.
Yeah. Well, Casey, I think that might do it for us here. If anyone else has any other thoughts, leave them down because we'll cap this about 45 minutes. Good show though. Another comment, Cam. Longstreet better get some time in because you have 2 studs of QB waiting in the wings next year. Yep. It'll be a logjam. One of these QBs will have to transfer. Yeah. Jonas Williams has looked fantastic so far. You're 100% correct. I want to see some Longstreet early.
I wonder, way too early sort of like take here. I mean, the
incoming crazy take.
I mean, I'm just saying the QB controversy next year is going to be like pretty elite, I think. Like one of those guys is going to start, like it's not even really a take. I just think it's going to be one of those things to keep your eye on out of, spring camp next year. I mean, do you have the true freshman? Do you have the redshirt freshman start? Like it's going to be, and one of those guys, like you said, probably transfers. Maybe after that year, maybe one transfers, one stays kind of thing. But it's going to be, it's a fun future for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Casey, any other thoughts? Just concluding.
No, I mean, we thank you guys for tuning in. I mean, it's not the most optimal time to be listening to a podcast, but we're trying to figure out a consistent schedule, and we'll have a lot of coverage. We're going to be at all the games for the most part. This year, Terrence and I will be in the press box. Hopefully multiple. You'll be there multiple times, right? I mean, we'll be.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have inside access. I'll be hopefully at every practice of the year. I want to try to go to all of them, or at least most of them. So make sure to follow both of our Twitters. We'll have access and insight from there. But that's pretty much it for me. Terrence, do you have anything else you want to say?
Nothing much else. Going to highlight Cam's comment again. People said Mayaba is not ready to leave. Yeah, I like if Longstreet and Williams obviously are both here next year. Honestly, I think if Longstreet doesn't win the job from Mayava during the season, and then Mayava wants to come back, and then I think Longstreet will transfer.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
'cause that feels right, right?
Yeah. Is no other option. I mean, you
Yeah.
kind of have to at that point.
I mean,
Uh,
you could sit it like another year, but then he'd also have to sit with Jonas Williams. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
yeah. It's like, it's not really like an Arch Manning situation where you have like veteran heavy and then like
No,
rookie,
no,
so
not at all.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Casey, I think that's going to do it for us today. USC Coliseum Chronicles Live. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back at 11 next Friday, assuming nothing comes up. But once, as Casey said, once we get closer to the season, we're going to have a lot more consistent schedules. Both of us have very crazy summer jobs that we're doing this off season, so we're very busy. But we'll have 2 episodes a week starting August-ish. I don't really know when, but we will. But thank you all for tuning in, and have a good one.